Welcome everybody back to Friar Talk. Today we got some breaking news. Wandy Peralta has just signed with the Padres. He's a left-handed relief pitcher, and as we know, apparently this year you cannot get too many relievers. Padres got a lot of needs. We talked about the last time they signed the bullpen arm. We said, I think they're all done signing bullpen arms. Not the case. It seems that they're not really going to look to find a left-handed starter in the free agent market. I don't know how you feel about that, Chase. I'm kind of giving up. Has made it seem like they would rather have a more dominant like lefty bullpen and have no lefty starters. That's what it kind of looks like right now. Before we start breaking down Peralta and kind of who he is and the contract and everything, I want to say one thing because Chase, you're here, I'm here. We are 49er fans. The 49ers are going to be in the Super Bowl. So shout out Dan Campbell for going for it on fourth down twice, completely tanking that game away because if we're being honest, the 49ers comeback was more of just the Lions shooting themselves in the foot and more specifically Dan Campbell doing it. So one shout out the Niners. We're both big Niner fans. Maybe we'll do something for the Super Bowl. It just kind of depends when our work is, if we have enough time beforehand. But with all that said, talking baseball, talking Padres baseball, what's your takeaway from this move? And I think we should get into the pros of Peralta and kind of more about him, and then also just like where the Padres are at in free agency. But Chase, off the bat, like, what do you think about Wandy Peralta?
It seems like you can't get enough bullpen guys. I mean, I thought we were solid before, but it just kind of solidifies the bullpen even more. We kind of know that was kind of a weaker point of the team last year, and it kind of cost us some games. Like if we didn't blow out a team, we were kind of like, hey, our starters led the MLB in ERA. The bullpen did not really hold up their end of the bargain. They had some rough patches. They, blew some games, some close games where the Padres really needed to win, and he addressed it. We have now 2 or 3 guys that could potentially be closers and just kind of rotate throughout that. You have Wandy Peralta, who's a solid guy. He's up there in age, but we got him for the next 4 years with 3 opt-out contracts on a cheaper deal. He has really good numbers against lefties. His righties numbers kind of alter from year to year. I was trying to figure out if he was better home or away pitcher, but it literally looks like it just depends on the year. Last year, he had really bad home numbers, but really good away numbers. But the year before that, he had really good home numbers and really bad away splits. The one thing that's kind of been consistent is that he's a little bit better towards lefty than he is righties, but some years he's better against righties than others. He has a high velocity fastball, mainly uses a changeup as a secondary. He'll occasionally throw a show me slider just so, hey, I still have this pitch. Don't just try to sit changeup or fastball. When you look at his savant, it's mostly red. The one thing that is a little bit of a concern for me is that last year his walk rate was 13.7%. As you can see, it's bottom 4th percentile in the entire MLB. His expected ERA is always going to be like that because he has a really high FIP, but he always outperforms it, which I know some people like FIP, some people hate FIP, but that's going to bring his expected ERA down. His hard rate percentage and hard hit percentage and everything above that, it's beautiful. We'd love to see the red on that. His ground ball percentage is phenomenal, and I think that is where it's going to play to the Padres' strengths really well. We have such an athletic infield and great fielders everywhere that having a guy with a 57.1% ground ball rate is insane. So not really too worried about anything else. He doesn't need to strike out a lot of guys as long as he keeps that ground ball rate percentage anywhere near it's at. He's going to thrive in San Diego just because of the defense of the infield, and he can play to his strengths.
Yeah, so I think I'll say this. I think he's going to be good this year. I think he's going to be a solid pitcher. I think his kind of metrics and everything. I think that if you look at it, it's like, okay, yeah, he's probably going to perform well in Petco. He's probably going to perform well for the Padres. Hey, I like that the Padres are building through a bullpen. We saw like they have the most pitcher friendly park in the sport. It makes sense to kind of go that route. But the only thing that I'm kind of wondering about is this deal doesn't really make any sense. And like that's why I don't really like the signing. I'll be honest with you guys. And I'm saying that because I like Peralta. I like what he's going to bring. I like bringing in a lefty if you're kind of looking at it from the pitching side of everything. Like, all right, you don't really have, You don't have a lefty starter, so if you're gonna have to like have a bunch of lefty bullpen arms, that makes sense. You don't want to tap into a very overpriced starting pitching market where Nick Martinez got like 13 million a year. I get all that, right? My problem is his contract is a 4-year contract. He's making 16 million total. Not that big, right? 4 million a year. Well, it's the AJ Preller Classic. There's 3 opt-outs in the deal. I didn't see exactly what they were for. I would assume it's what every AJ Preller contract is, where the player can opt out every time. And I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I would be very surprised if it's not built like that, because all of them have basically been built like that. So you're going to give this guy all the leverage. He's 32 years old. Say he's good next year, right? This contract could still be really bad for the Padres. That's the problem. Like, not like really bad, but it just could not work out because there's not a whole lot of upside in having this dude when he's 35 years old, right? He's going to be 32 this year, 33, 34, 35. 34, 35, he could bring you absolutely nothing, and you pay him a little over $4 million both those years. And then you're like, why do we always have guys like this? Well, that's what the Padres have done in the bullpen all the time, dude. That's what's happened. Drew Pomeranz, Craig Stammen, like there's been so many names where it's like, okay, they sign this guy and then it doesn't work out because they signed him for like this deal that's kind of expensive. So that's what I don't like about it. Also, the other thing is the Padres have half a lineup right now. Like, if you're going to be signing guys, we just talked about what's not a need. Bullpen isn't a need. Like, I get the depth. I understand that argument to it, but if we're pulling up and we got Jose Azocar playing like left field, not even center, because they don't have anyone, or we don't know what it's going to look like. This lineup might just suck. And if your lineup sucks, they're not going to be good. It's going to be different than last year, but that's still an issue. So that's my problem with it, is like, why is $4 million, if the budget is $15 or $20 million, shouldn't that be going into the lineup that's desperate for someone right now, instead of banking on like 3 spots to just like, hey, hopefully it works out? Because right now they don't have a DH. Jake Cronenworth is your first baseman, but he's not going to be your first baseman to start the year if Manny's out. So you don't have a first baseman then, and then you'd have 2 outfield spots that you have no one to play really. Like, you can put guys in there, but they're going to be replaceable or below replaceable level players. That's not good. That's not where they should be spending their money. So that's the part that confuses me. Now, if they go out and they sign a couple guys and it works out, sure, that works. But they haven't done that. And today's what? Is today February? No, tomorrow's February. Season is getting close, guys. The season is getting really close. So that's my issue with it. I'm like, are they ever going to build out a lineup, or is it just going to be like, hey, we're going to cross our fingers and hope that the pitching carries us? And if this team is, hanging around at the All-Star break, like, we're going to make a move, which that's what I think where they're at right now. But also, like, why not try to get a bat? Why not try to get someone instead of like, it's like a luxury at this point to add another bullpen arm, and also one that it could end up costing you $8 million over the next couple of years, where it's like, well, shoot, like that's what we talked about Matt Carpenter this year, right? That was the same conversation. Oh, now we pay Matt Carpenter's $5 million. And when the Padres are spending a bunch of money, it's like, oh, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. But when they're up against that, where they're like, we have no money, we don't know what the budget is. The budget seems so low. That's when you're like, why is this the move? So that's my question there. But with all that said, I do think Peralta's a pretty good fit. Like Chase was saying, mostly change up fastball, like 85% of the time. That's what he throws. His stuff is pretty nasty. He got a lot of movement on both those pitches. And he's good, especially for lefty on lefty matchups. And he's going to make this bullpen really deep. I mean, the bullpen should be really good this year. That's my takeaway. The bullpen should be really good. If it's not really good, then we have a whole nother issue. But I'm expecting this bullpen to really carry this team, honestly. Going to be the bullpen and your star players. That's what it looks like. But you still need to build out a lineup. That's my issue with this move, because they are still yet to do that. And you still have glaring holes in the offense. So that's why I don't like it. I don't like it. And so that's kind of my overall thoughts. But Chase, you think I'm overreacting to that? Like, you think that's too much, or do you think that's a fair complaint right now?
I think that's a fair complaint. I've been begging for a lefty starter since, I think we've both been begging for a lefty starter. Hell, we even made a lefty starter video where we named 3 guys, and of course, one of them went to the Dodgers, which, lefty starter going to the Dodgers after a down year. What does this sound like? Oh, yeah, Tyler Anderson all over again, just older. terrified. James Paxton is about to have a career year, and that's the one guy I wanted the most because his peripherals are still really good despite him being 33 years old. He's going to the Dodgers, and yeah, he might get hurt, but he's gonna have a career year somewhere in there. Um, the lineup is still very, very much sketchy. You could sign like Garrett Cooper as a potential DH first baseman. He's going to be a cheaper option, but it really looks like it might be the Jackson Merrill, the Graham Pauley, and I'm forgetting one last outfielder in there, but it might be just
Marcy?
those two coming up. Yeah, Marcy. Yeah, that's what I thought it was, but I was like, it doesn't sound right. But yeah, it could be one of those three guys. Hey, they're going to give him a shot. Graham Pauley's been really good. Jackson Merrill's been knocking at the doors for a minute, kind of cleared the way for him. He might be playing third to begin the year and just have Kim at second and then Kim at short, Crony at second. But then, Manny and his elbow, he's probably going to be DH. You don't really have a first baseman. That's where Garrett Cooper could come in and play first. And then, Graham Pauley can be there. Yeah, but then you're running Ozokar in center and Tatis in right. Yeah, that lineup, man. You got to provide some depth to that lineup. It could be just replacement level guys at this point, and it's just needed depth because we don't know what these minor league guys are going to come in and do. You can't bank your entire future right now on, hey, you know what? Let's hope they pull a Corbin Carroll and or an MVP and Rookie of the Year candidate. No, don't get me wrong. I want these guys to make an impact, but at the same time, there's too many holes in the lineup to be like, okay, we're giving 3 of these guys a shot, and hopefully 2 of them work out.
Also, they're super young. Like, Marcy was in Double A last year. He had 50 at bats. Like, all right, dude, that's not really radio. That's like as much as like Solis had. And like Jackson Merrill's like, yeah, like he could come up, but more expected like he would be like a September call up. That's more of what his ETA actually is than like, yeah, let's just throw him out there this year. I don't know, man. I don't know if this, like, we'll see what happens. Like, if these guys look really good in spring, it's like, yeah, then that works. And I think that's what they're going to do at this point. I think what we're going to see is them just kind of, we're going to go in the spring, see what we have, and try to sign like platoon level players and guys like that. Which, to be fair, us and Isaac were texting about this earlier. That's what they did in 2022. And then they made some trades at the deadline because their pitching was good and their bullpen kept them in games. And Manny Machado put the team on his back every single night and was insane that year. If you're like, hey, we need that from Manny and Tatis this year, I mean, it's not the worst idea. And like, there are organizations that are in a worse spot. I'm not saying I like it. I'm not saying that you shouldn't go that route. You know what I mean,
No,
though. Like, if you're gonna,
I know, I get what you mean. I just hate that line of thinking. It's
also like, yeah, well, this worked once. Let's do it again.
Because let's look at what we have to deal with being in the NL. Let's look at the Dodgers team. Shohei, Betts, Freeman, Outman. There's Max Muncy might make a comeback player of the year. Their starting rotation is still filthy. They just signed Yamamoto. Next year they're gonna have Ohtani. Their bullpen's still good. And then let's look at the Braves. Let's look at what we have with the Braves. Austin Riley, Matt Olson, Ronald Acuna, Ozzy Albies, Michael Harris, Sean Murphy. And then look at our lineup. And
I mean, not even to mention teams like the Phillies and the Diamondbacks.
I didn't want to bring in the Phillies to this.
But the Diamondbacks, too. Like, the Diamondbacks are in a good spot. Yeah. The Giants are going to – like, the Padres are more like the Giants level than, like, the other teams that are, like, the top teams in the NL now. That's what you're looking at. It's like, yeah, you can bank on that. Like, this is kind of the thing. Like, just, like, scraping by into the playoffs is just not what you want to do. And the reason that the Padres have been doing that, like, these past couple years where they have, like, collapses and aren't as good, it's because they didn't set themselves up to succeed. Like, they had, like, studs and duds, and that's what they're doing again. So, I get it, Chase. I'm just saying that's like, I guess, what the thought process is. You know, I guess. But that's why I said I don't like the move. I don't like it. I want them to go after bats. I want them to have a better lineup because that was the issue last year. So they didn't bring guys in. Now, the bullpen was also the issue. But now you don't have this nearly as good of a starting rotation. So it's like, okay, well, you have to put that into play with how this functions. Like this team is significantly worse right now. Significantly worse. And everyone else pretty much everyone else in the NL got better. So it's like, well, shoot. That's not ideal. But yeah, that's all I got. Chase, you got anything else about this signing? About your current thoughts?
Good signing, but we could have used that money somewhere else that's a little bit more important.
Yeah, and that's kind of my overall takeaway with this. It's like it's not like it's a bad sign or we think he's not going to be good, but it's like it's the weird contract which you see all the time, and it's burned them in the past. And it's like we don't have a lineup, man. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, Peralta's a beast. We'll be talking about a couple other things. We are going to be talking about Ha-seong Kim and kind of the pros and cons of trading him now, and if that's a realistic thing because we talked about it a while back, and I think that not that it's like, oh, that's going to happen, but I think that we're seeing like that could be definitely an avenue that they explore. So we're going to talk about that later this week. We might have something else about some prospects just because the prospects are, that's going to be a big thing about the Padres season this year. That's what at least right now, that's what it looks like. So that's kind of where we're at for episodes. And yeah, hopefully we see some more moves. Hopefully we do see them go after a couple outfielders. We've seen some guys sign. We saw, who was it, Gallo, Jock was signed. Like we've seen some names go. So that outfield list is getting smaller by the day, and the season is right around the corner. So it's gonna be big. They're gonna need to make a couple moves before we actually see like what's going on with what this lineup looks like. Because I don't think we have that answer yet. I definitely don't. But it's like, okay, well, it's not really gonna look much better than what it looks like right now. And I think that's the biggest concern for this team. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what Preller ends up doing. But thank you all for listening, and let us know what you think about this Peralta signing. Thanks.